So 2025 is nearly upon us. And if you want to make sure that you make it a fantastic year for you and your business, I'm going to talk to you about the 12 steps that you need to put in place to ensure 2025 is a great year for you and your business. So let's get into the detail and talk about the steps you need to make it a great success. So in each of these boxes are 12 words, and over the next few minutes I'm going to show you the key points in each area that you need to cover to ensure that 2025 is a great success. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to share with you an opportunity to take advantage of something that only 10 people are going to get access to that can make sure that you guarantee your success for that year. So let's get into the detail. So point number one is this: when you're planning for something, the key thing you've got to take into account is your target. What is the number that you are trying to achieve? Is it a particular revenue target that you want to hit? Is it a particular profit number that you want to hit? Is it a certain amount of clients that you want to bring on board? For example, I have a business where we do calling in South Africa. We want to generate and bring on board 60 new clients in 2025. I've also got clients that say to me, we want to generate £15 million of additional revenue in 2025. I've also got organisations that say they want to generate an additional £2 million of profit in 2025. It doesn't matter what that number is, but the key thing is you need to have something to focus on. If shit goes out in the ocean and just drifts, it hits the rocks. And that's the critical thing we don't want to happen for 2025 for your business. So we need to be able to work out what the actual target is, and then we can then start to talk about how we break that target down into quarters, into months, into weeks, into days, so we make sure we take the actions needed to get the results. But the starting point is a target. If you haven't got one, you're bound to fail. Know what it is you want to do, and make sure that target is also realistic and maybe smart, specific and measurable, achievable, realistic and timely. If you want to triple your revenue, is that realistic? Not sure. Have a look at what your industry is doing. Are other competitors in your industry growing by 10%? In which case, maybe you want to grow by 10%. The key thing is identify what the target number is. Let's set that as a parameter to start with that we can work, that's realistic, that we can get everyone on board with. So point number two is this: what is it that you are actually going to sell? What services will you actually start to offer to existing customers, but also to new customers? The reality is we've got to get clarity on what it is we've got to offer in our businesses. And so many companies start thinking about numbers and elements, incentives and plans and methodologies, but they haven't actually got clarity on what it is they're going to sell and who to. We're going to talk through the journey in a moment around the customer that the buyer has. But one of the critical things, especially if you're an established business, is work out what services you're offering you can sell to your existing customers. Maybe there's some new things you can offer. Maybe, for example, in my business, I have some new courses that I'm bringing out, which I'll be offering to my existing customers, as well as taking that to new customers. To get clarity on what it is you're offering right now. And maybe that might change over the course of the year. So maybe put a plan in place for the first half of the year that says we're going to sell these 5 services, and maybe a plan for the second half of the year that says we're going to sell these 7. Maybe you've got a product development team or someone in your organisation that's creating new ideas. That's great, it's all important to have, but the key thing is we've got to know what it is we've got to sell so that we can create the relevant sales material and collateral in order to support the sales initiatives. So work out firstly what it is you're going to sell. Where's your marketplace going? What's the direction of trend that's happening? And how can you make sure that you're putting in place services that are going to take advantage of that and get clients on board and happy with what you do that makes a difference in their business and their world? Define what it is you will sell. If you don't know that, it's difficult to achieve the numbers you want. So point number 3 is this: in every sales situation, business situation, there are going to be some issues and some challenges that are going to go on within your business, okay? For example, the challenges might be you've got a competitor that's coming in with a lower price, or you may have a sales situation where you've got a couple of members of your team that are leaving, or you may have a situation where you've got a service that you're offering that isn't going to be delivered for a few months. I don't know. But write down what those challenges are. Let's get clarity on what those issues and challenges are so that we can take those into account. And one of the simple ways in which I encourage people to measure those is to do it based upon a scale of 5 and 5. So when I look at a challenge in a business, I'll work on the basis of 5 being really critical and 5 being likely, with then 1 being unlikely and 1 being not very critical. And what I'll do when I take a challenge, and I might write down 7 or 8 different challenges, I'll measure it and say, the implications of that happening in my business are a 5, but the likelihood of it happening are a 2, and it will give me a score of 10. And what that then does is it means that I can think, okay, I'm not going to worry about that one too much because it's critical, but it's unlikely to happen. But what I can do, and when I write down, for example, a list of risks and issues, if I've got one that's potentially over 20, where it's highly potentially difficult to us, and it's going to potentially be likely to happen, I'm going to try and take some steps to overcome that. So putting in place a really simple mechanism like that to deal with the challenges and issues that you've got, be ahead of the game, know what's happening before you get to a position of trying to do a great sales plan and then find that it doesn't go you anywhere you wanted to because of these issues. Know what's going to happen, know what the punch in the mouth could be before you get around the corner, and if we do that, we can start to take into account how we can mitigate that risk and ensure we hit the plan that we want. So point number 4 is the journey. And when we think about the journey we're thinking about is for the buyer. And some of the times, one of the old traditional methods around the buyer journey was that there'd be a funnel and people would go from step to step at different stages. I maybe now like to see the buyer journey as a bit of a circle with different elements happen at different points in time. Most of the time, buyers will see you on social media, they'll meet someone face to face, they'll get an email, they'll get a call. There's all these different things, and they're not necessarily happening in a logical way. They're happening across a mixture of different areas. Google talked about it needing 7, 11, 4. But actually, I think those numbers now of 7 hours of content, 11 interactions, and 4 media are probably even, I would say, 10, 20, and 6. The reality is, we're going to need much more engagement with people to get them to feel comfortable with us. And we need to be able to map out and understand that process and what it looks like for a buyer. Where will they move at different points in the journey? And if you haven't got your marketing interface with your sales, I'm going to tell you now in 2025, you're going to fail. Marketing and sales and making sure we understand how the users engage and interact with us and what they interact with what we sell is critical to that whole buying process. And it needs to be seamless and needs to be integrated together. So think about the buyer journey. How would you want to go on that journey if you were a customer yourself? That's a great thing I always encourage people to think about. What would you want to do? How would you want to buy a service of that nature yourself? If you were in the shoes of a buyer or potential different buyers, what would be the things that you'd want to see? What information would you want to share? What concerns would you have? Start thinking like a buyer and start thinking about what they're going through rather than as a sales team. It's going to increase your chance of success and working with them. So point number 5 is all about the customer. And I've talked to a lot of people in a lot of my videos and different resources around the most important thing is understanding the audience that we're trying to be successful with. If you go back to my sales plan video, which is maybe a video you've seen before, the critical thing is we've got to understand the 3 whys when it relates to the customer. The first one is why buy from us, okay? The critical thing is what is it about our solution or service that makes the customer want to buy from us, and why do they want to buy from us? What is it, what the outcomes are we serve for them? What's the type of persona and organizational person we're engaging with in order to be able to get them to think, yes, I want to buy from that organization. The second option is why are they going to buy from us? What are the different options available to the customer in the marketplace? What are the potential alternative services that they could buy? And who are they from? And why are they going to buy from us? Why are they going to choose us? What are the key things that we're going to offer that's going to be so unique about our solution that's going to make them think, I want to choose those guys themselves? And the question is, that's going to be linked into the reasons why the buyer is buying in the first place. What problem or desire we solve for them, what outcomes we achieve for them. The critical thing for the customer, and again, if we've got the persona in place, if you want a copy of my ideal customer builder, I'll put a copy in there, a request that you can download it into the chat, the details below. But the reality is we've got to be able to understand our customer, who they are, what's driving them to make that purchase decision for anything else. And the final why that we need to get in focus on is why now. At the end of the day, this is 2025, not for 2028. We've got to know why they're going to have to buy now. What's going to make them pull their wallet out or sign that check to make sure they give you the business? Why now? What's driving that? What's the impact if they don't get this resolved? The critical thing for us in any sales planning situation is to understand the customer, why they've got to buy, why they've got to choose us, and why they've got to buy now. Get these 3 things right, put it in place with the rest of the elements we're talking about, you're going to be in great shape. So point number 6 is this. Methodology. If you've got a big sales team or even a couple of different members in your team, the critical thing you've got to think about is what's the methodology that you're going to use to go about winning business consistently. Salespeople can always do things on an ad hoc basis. They can be lucky sometimes to win here and there. But if you want to get consistent sales success, you've got to be able to build some methodology, what I would call criteria, in order to be able to choose and make sure deals get across the line consistently. There's got to be a consistent language that your sales team are using. And there's got to be some simple methods in which they're looking and reviewing the deals that they've got to make sure that they're a good fit for your business. There are different methodologies that I suggest and use. One of my most popular videos is BANT. BANT is a great example of how you can qualify deals based upon BANT itself. You've also got, for example, MEDPIC, which is the new methodology that's used in lots of system and services businesses. Or you may want to create your own criteria yourself. I'm working with the clients at the moment, and we're creating their own sales methodology based upon their business and steps in the process. But the reality is, the method, the criteria, the stages in the process, maybe from 1 to 6, you've got to work out what that is for your business and make sure that everyone in your team buys into it, understands what it's about, and is in a position where they know what's required to move a deal from stage 1 to stage 2. Using simple methodologies to do that is a vital method. It works, it enables everyone to be on the same page, and it builds that consistency engine so you know when you're going to forecast your business to hit the targets you want, you're going to be in great shape rather than being finger in the air. So point number 7 is this. If you let your sales team in your planning process just do what they like, they will. And the reality is you're probably going to get inconsistencies and people doing different things in different ways. The very best sales teams have a playbook. They have a blueprint that includes a method to engage, a method to prospect, a method to handle objections, a method to be able to deal with different questions. They've got some scenarios in here, okay, that work. They've got methods for cold outreach, for example. They've got methods for new inbound leads. They've got a playbook that says, when this happens, we're going to provide this information, or here's our response, and here's our mechanism to share that detail. And the reality is, for most businesses, they generally don't put these in place, and then they wonder why some salespeople are successful and others aren't. And it's mainly because they're not using the same playbook, and they certainly aren't using the same methodology. If we create a playbook, by the way, this is an area my team in the Sales Growth Academy can help you with, the ability to create a playbook and then to adjust that and ensure that we're then monitoring to see if it's being used and what impact it's having gives us the ability to generate results. We can then start to amend different emails or different aspects or different scenarios. If we know that certain type of clients react in a different way, we can adjust that. But create yourself a playbook to use. It's worth the investment. If you're a business owner and trying to get your sales team that's new into doing what you want them to do, it's no good if it's in your head, if it's not written down in a playbook that people can use, maybe a Notion site or maybe a playbook online that they can get access to and then start to then engage with clients and prospects and get the right results. Put together a playbook. It's like your map for sales success. You can't get to where you want to do without a map to go to that direction. The playbook is the method to do that. So now we've started to create all the elements we need. We've got a target, we know what we're going to sell, we've understood the issues and we understand the journey, and we've got a method and a playbook in place. It's all about implementation. The reality is, how are we going to make this happen? What does the breakdown of targets look like? How have we broken down the activities and what's going to happen on a day and week-to-week basis and month-to-month basis? We want to be able to create a planning template that ensures that we take the right actions and our sales team are doing the work here in order to get the results in this later down the line. In most business-to-business situations, the work you do now isn't going to generate results for 3 months' time. So we've got to be disciplined and dedicated to ensure that they're implementing the methods that we talk about and doing that consistently in order to trust the process and get the right results. And it's great to have a sales operation plan that talks around the calls that we're going to have in place, and what metrics and what reports and what systems, for example, CRM systems are going to be used in order to make sure things are done. We also need to know what calling platforms we're going to use, what technology we're going to put in place, how that's going to be implemented. The key thing is making sure we've got an implementation plan that covers the key basis points, make sure our team knows how to engage, who to engage with, and to make sure that they can also then start to open up the conversations that can hopefully then result in leads and business opportunities. The implementation process is critical. There's no point having a vision of what you want to do if you can't then make it happen. Maybe you've got an internal sales team. Maybe you've got an external sales team. Who are the people that are going to take the actions at different points in time when it comes to engaging with your prospects? Who's going to be able to make the initial calls initially to be able to open up the leads opportunities? By the way, I can help you with that if you need some help. But who's actually then going to take ownership for those leads? Who's going to then make sure that they implement those activities? And how do we know that those people are in place are comfortable and consistent in the business? How long have they been with us? How loyal are they to this? How much knowledge do they have of the product and the service? And how capable are they of being able to get the results that you want? There's no point putting in a great plan if you haven't got the right resources in place to deliver it. So as part of this 12-stage process, we've got to know who, we've got to know what they're going to do, we've got to make sure we've got and put in place a plan that says, yeah, I know I've got coverage in the event of things going wrong. I've also got the right team in place to get the right result, depending on where the customer journey and how they buy is. So make sure you've got people in place, and if you haven't marked those spots, add them to your issues, your challenges list, and make sure you identify what could stop you from hitting the number you want. So the wonderful world of sales is all about incentives, or in many cases, compensation, okay? We've got the idea of compensation, and probably the other C that I'll mention there is communication. How have we communicated the incentives and the overall wider sales plan within our team? Have we just sort of sent an email out, or have we done maybe an open meeting with everyone? Or maybe you've done a video where you share details of what you want to do and how you want to do it. How have you put in place the training to ensure that people understand what they've got to do and how it's going to work? And maybe also if you have the one-to-one sessions to ensure that if you shared a new sales compensation scheme, that compensation scheme works and people buy into it. The critical thing is in selling, we've got to incentivize people. I see a lot of businesses that say, oh, well, the sales team don't need an incentive to win business. I think you're living in dreamland if you think that. Salespeople do want to have incentives, they want to be successful, they want to know that if they put in effort and reward, they're going to get extra additional money for that. And even though you might think, well, they're being paid to do that job, sure. But if you want to get a sales team that's really going to hit the numbers you want for 2025, you've got to have a strong incentive plan in place that looks after you as an organisation, but also rewards them. So communicate effectively, build a compensation plan, develop an incentive scheme that works. Again, something I can help you with if you've got uncertainty around how to do that, but put it in place. It's a key part of the 12-stage plan. So we're nearly there. Point number 11, when you've got the sales plan itself, is metrics to be able to check our progress. How are we going to know whether we're on track? What are the key KPIs that you're going to start to record and measure on a regular basis? Maybe you're going to start to record the amount of sales calls that people are making daily. Or maybe you're going to record the amount of leads that they're converting. Or maybe you record the amount of total leads they're bringing in. Or maybe a profit margin figure. I don't know, but what are the metrics? What are the key performance indicators that you're going to start to use and keep in place in order to know if you're on track to deliver your plan? The reason we do this is they've got to be closely linked to our target and our implementation plan so that we know what we're going to try and do, and then we can measure whether we're on track to do that. So many organisations just sort of, oh, okay, it'll be fine. And the chances are, if you don't know where you're going to go and you don't measure that progress on the journey, you're going to go off patter. I was listening to a story this morning about how a bird had been blown off, landed in the UK, been blown off direction, even though they were due to go to South America because the hurricane winds had pushed them that direction. Small differences and small issues can mean that you go big time off path, and we don't want that to happen for you in the business. So put those metrics in place, add them to your weekly or certainly monthly elements of reporting so you can see whether you're on track to do what you're going to do. And if you're not, then we can then take some action, or as we'll talk about in point number 12, get the support and help you need from maybe an external person to maybe make sure you do hit the numbers you want. Metrics are key. We need them as part of our overall plan. Without them, you could end up finding that you end up getting somewhere and it's not where you want to be. And my final point is about support and mentoring and help to ensure that you achieve these numbers. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. Of course, you might say, oh, I'd say that because that's what I do. But so many businesses have got a great plan of what they want to do, but then they get lost amongst things and they can't see the wood for the trees. And I encourage you as a business owner or in a sales professional to go and get some external help. Even just to sanity check your plan, or maybe just to give you an insight into whether some of the things you're doing are going to work, or maybe just get that external perspective to help. And if you are facing some struggles during the course of the year, who's going to be the person that's going to mentor and support and really engage and motivate the team? Maybe it should be you as a sales manager or sales leader or business owner. Maybe you need to bring in some other external help to do that. I've certainly done that with organisations where they've been going through some challenges. They've brought me in to come and help them give that mentoring and support and advice. But the key thing is the chance of you achieving everything on your own without any external help are probably unlikely, and sometimes it's a good way to bring in just to get that fresh pair of eyes. So look at that as the final part of your plan. Work out where you're going to need support, where you can get it from, and then reach out to some people in the industry, some other traders or mentors or people who've got consultant advice backgrounds that can give you some advice to make sure you're on the right track to deliver what you want to. So there you have it. There's the sales plan for 2025. By the way, I could rub out 2025 and you can put any number in here if you wanted to. It could be 2026, it could be 2027, it doesn't matter. These are the steps you need for sales planning at any stage. They're the things that you need to go through in order to make sure that the plan you put in place is rock solid and you hit the numbers that you want. At the end of the day, sales growth and achieving growth is what we all want, but it doesn't happen by accident. Implement these steps, put the plan in place, and I guarantee you're going to get the success you want. And by the way, for the 10 people that reach out below, if you're thinking, hey, my sales planning process isn't quite right, not sure if we've got what we need in place, I'm going to give 10 people access to me and my team for an hour to review your sales plan. We'll even create you the metrics outline of this plan and send it through to you completely free of charge. So if you want access to that, Put your comments in the section below, reach out to us online. We can give it to you completely free of charge so we can check that the plan that you're putting in place is going to work. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for my next video, which is on a subject that you're going to love and you won't want to miss.